Hello and welcome to episode 4 of In Conversation with ASI. I am joined by gorgeous Lauren Murphy from the Style Files. How are you going, Lauren?
Hi, Claire. I'm very well, thank you. I'm out of lockdown at the moment in Queensland up here on the Gold Coast. So I feel super lucky, but I did just want to say straight off the bat, I'm thinking of everyone who is in lockdown. Keep going. Everyone around Australia is thinking of you. Keep creating, get inspired, and I'm thinking of you, seriously.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, that's so gorgeous. And yeah, definitely there's a lot of people in the creative industry doing it tough right now. And not even in creative industries, but particularly in our community. I know there's some people who really appreciate that message. So thank you. Lauren, I want to start off today's session, just for those who don't know you. When did you actually start with ASI, and maybe share with us a little bit about that journey so far?
Sure. I'm actually a bit of an old duck. I think I started my certificate course roughly 7 years ago. I believe it was about 2014, the end of 2014. I did certificate course, and then I went back and did my the editorial style course. The masters weren't available back then, so it's actually a credit to ASI that I'm still here and being included in something like this, having been graduated for roughly 7 years.
Yeah.
So when I completed my certificate course, I just came straight home and started business, really.
Yeah.
Business name, registered my ABN, got an email, started Instagram. Instagram was reasonably new back then, but it was known that if you're going to do something, put it out there. Something that I believe Lauren really encouraged us to do back then was let people know what you're doing. And it's the best thing I did, because as soon as I put that up, I had a lot of friends that have labels up here on the Gold Coast, and straight away, oh, I see you're studying styling, or I see you're a stylist now. Do you want to come along onto this photo shoot? So I actually fell into it quite quickly up here on the Gold Coast with editorial styling and a lot of creative work. I had come from a media, marketing, public relations background. So I was lucky in a sense that I had quite a few contacts. So I sort of hit the ground running when I'd just done the certificate course, went back into the editorial, and at that course I was 6 weeks pregnant. So Lauren was one of the first I told, because I had a lunch thing with her, and it was very much, where's your career going, and planning. So I'm like, I've really got to mention this perhaps hump in the road I've got coming along. So yeah, I then had my first son, who is now, he's 5.5, nearly 6, I think. And then I've also had another daughter along the way, my daughter York, who's 3. So did you want to know what I'm doing now since I've done the course, or just how I got to the course? Sorry, I forget the question.
No, it's all good. That's a great recap as well. And what I love there as well is that, like, how amazing that back in the day you could sit down over lunch with Lauren and have like a session with her to pick her brain.
Well, do you know what? I won a competition through ASI. It was, I believe it was, I don't know why I've lost my memory, but it was something to do with showing us what confidence means to you, I believe. I remember I had Turia Pitt. It was an image of her on the front cover of a magazine. Anyway, it was a competition for all the students. I happened to win, and I got to go and have like a one-on-one mentoring lunch session with Lauren and hash out the earlier stages of where my business was going.
Yeah. What do you remember from that conversation that maybe helped you get where you are?
It's funny. There's one thing I remember, which I probably should remember more, but hey, I was pregnant. Lauren asked me, we were talking about my website, and she said, are you just going to have editorial styling on there? Because that's what I was doing. And I said, no, I'm going to include personal styling and everything. And she said, do not limit yourself. Include all the services that you're capable of and that you want to offer. Build it under one umbrella and a brand. And I agreed, and I felt that was the right thing to do. And that has been the best move for me because, as you know, the road to success, say, can be very windy, and along the way we may fall into different elements of styling and business, and then weird things like COVID happen and everyone pivots. And I would say that I am heavily into personal styling now.
Yeah.
So I perhaps never acknowledged that or put it on my website. Would I be there now? I don't know.
Yeah. Such great advice. And I'm glad you've shared that now, because I know for some of our stylists, they feel like in these early days and they're getting started that they have to know exactly where they're headed, rather than actually being broad about all the skills that they have to be able to take on those opportunities, because you just don't know where you might end up. So that's so cool that that's come to fruition for you now.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because you mentioned that you were in that sort of marketing PR kind of role before styling. What was the tipping point that made you actually take the leap into styling as a career change?
Yep. So when I was 13, I worked in retail. My first job was a surf shop. I stayed at that same shop all through high school, every weekend, every school holidays, and all through university. When I left high school, I remember going to Careers Expo, actually, and they had these little name tags with, what career do you want to be when you're older? Like policeman, astronaut, whatever. And I was looking, God, there's nothing exactly what I want, but I chose the title was advertising executive, and that's what I chose, and I remember it clearly. And I remember teachers saying to me, "Oh, why are you going to go and do business?" I enrolled in university and did business degree.
Mm.
I remember my dance teacher at high school saying, "Oh, business, I wouldn't have picked you for that. I thought you'd be a fashion designer." And I said, "Oh, what? No way. I can't draw. I can't sew," because fashion design I'm turning 36 this year. So picture me back in high school. That's all that was really related to fashion, fashion designer or retail, I guess, or a model, which so I'm like, I can't draw, I can't sew, I can't do that. She went, "Oh, okay. Oh, but you're so good with your clothes and outfits." And anyways, I went on and studied a marketing degree. And I did an internship at Gold Coast Tourism, and I actually got to work on their retail range. Yeah. I started up a bit, but more on a marketing side, but at the same time it was garments. So I was still using a bit of my fashion flair, shall we say. And something else I was thinking about last night, I actually was looking online for jobs after university, and I was looking at advertising agencies, and I found this huge one called Publicist Mojo in Brisbane. I emailed them and sent a bit of a cover letter. I was fresh out of uni, so I was just trying. And they said, "We'd love to meet you. We love to meet graduates and gauge, what's going on out there in the industry." And I met with this gentleman at a cafe in West End, Brisbane. I was probably 20 or so, nervous. And I was chatting away, and he just said, "Describe to me, describe to me what your dream role would be. What do you picture yourself doing?" I don't remember what I said. I honestly don't. But I remember clearly he looked back at me and he said, "Oh, that's a creative director." I was like, "Oh, is it? What's that?" And I just heard the word director, and I thought, "Oh, I'm embarrassed. What have I tried to say I want to be?" Like, so that's creative direction. You want to be on the commercials and the advertisements, and you want to be directing what people should wear and look like and do. So it's having my marketing background has, I feel, interlaced with personal styling or editorial styling, because with marketing you're selling a brand to an audience, really, and I feel like we are our personal brand, and we're showing up as the best versions of ourselves, and we're almost selling ourselves. So I feel like having my marketing background has actually helped. But to move on with my career, I started out at Channel 10 on the Gold Coast, simply the advertising.
Yeah.
We got to merge with the radio station up here. So I was very much around radio, TV. I did that for a couple of years, and then I got a role as a marketing manager for pretty much an events company up here. We used to run a lot of the big music festivals. So I worked as a publicist, getting the DJs and the artists, promoting the festival, getting them interviews in magazines, which were huge back then, and radio stations and whatnot. So I worked, on music festivals. Within that role, I got to dabble, I would say, in styling, which again, I didn't even know I was styling as such.
Yeah.
So I would write the media release. And for instance, this one was on like fashion festival, 5 ways to dress this festival season. And I would write the press release. I would send it out to the media. I would get a bite from the media. They would say, I would love to set up a photo shoot. We're going to do a double page spread with the article and get some looks together. And my boss at the time was like, okay, Lauren, well, you can go get the looks. Go get a relationship with a retailer, sort it out. So I was like, oh, okay. And I ended up building a relationship with Universal Store up here, and they came on as like quite big sponsors of the festival. And I went and sourced garments for models. The models, one of them was my little brother. Like I was just finding random people and dressed them. And we had like double page spread, heaps of these looks for the festival. And it was really good. And that I felt 100% comfortable. And I thought I did a good job. And I was like, oh, imagine getting to do that every day. Like, although I was enjoying PR and marketing and everything, how good I felt, right. Like I felt at home doing that. After that role, I actually went on to work at a venue on the Gold Coast. And again, it was just the way I fell into it. It was basically a beach club and resort. So I was looking after corporate events, maybe engagement parties and 21st, and sometimes big brands like the Quicksilver Pro, that we hosted all their events and parties. So we had a runway over our pool, and we would do Fashion Fridays, something I created, and would have runway shows all the time. So I was the event manager. So again, it was still doing my role, but I was dabbling in a bit of fashion styling, and that's where I found things easier and more fun, and that's where I felt good.
Yeah.
So I wanted to work as like a PR or marketing manager for a big fashion label. That was kind of my goal. The Gold Coast back 8 years ago didn't have so many fashion label HQs up here. Also, there weren't as many roles that were fashion related. There was social media roles weren't a thing. So I thought, I might start applying for some jobs, but then I found I didn't have really any fashion experience. It was just as a teenager, I worked in a retail store.
Yeah.
I thought, how do I get credibility? How's anyone going to know that I am good at fashion? Or how do I prove this kind of on a resume if they're not going to, get to see me face to face? So I ended up Googling and researching, and as you do when you're at a job that you like, but you're not creatively fueled by. And I saw one of my friends that I used to work at the radio station with had just joined a styling course. And it wasn't at ASI, but I did my own research and found you guys. I was like, this one is cool. And I went home he was my boyfriend at the time, he's now my husband. And I said, oh my God, Laura's doing this styling course. Like, you can be a fashion stylist. You do this. That's what I want to do. Like, man, I wish I could do that. And he just simply said, why can't you? And I said, well, I don't know. Like, I work full time. How am I going to fit it in? I can't afford it. I'm just rattling up. I can't. I won't. How could I? And he's just looking at me like, why not? And then Penny, I spoke to Penny, and she's got a rebuttal for everything. I was like, oh my God, it's just like everything I'm worried about, you're putting me at ease. And so I joined. And I actually stayed working full time for maybe nearly a year even. So it was starting out my styling career. I remember doing photo shoots early morning and then going to work.
Yeah.
Working during the week and doing styling on weekends, things like that. I wasn't doing huge hours styling. I was still new, but I juggled the two. Then I left for maternity leave for my son, and I took 7 months off. But I do remember going to do a photo shoot when he was about 3 months old. It was the first time I left in with my husband. So I did do random shoots here and there. And then when I fell pregnant the second time, so I went back into PR again, just 3 days a week. And actually the PR company I was working for had a tender for a shopping centre to win the contract. And they actually built me into their tender as, we've got a stylist here as well we could offer. So I had this fancy page on like Lauren from the Style Files, and I felt really special, and they won the tender. And the shopping centre called them like the next day. I don't think they'd won it actually yet. And I was sitting in the office for like as a PR girl, and they said, they go off the phone and they go, "Oh, Lauren, like, can you go up to Harbour Town? They don't like their stylist. They want you to come up and quickly try and like fix this. They're filming a commercial. They need 2 outfits. Can you get up there?" And I hadn't been to that shopping centre in like 15 years. I was like, okay. I'm up there running around, just so lost, just trying my best. I'm thinking, I don't want to blow it for anyone. And then they won the contract and I got to work. I actually ended up being Harbour Town Centre stylist for 3.5 years. So I left PR after I had my daughter and solely worked on my styling business. So now, yeah, I work for myself, by myself, with my own hours and the flexibility. I always knew I wanted a bit of flexibility with a family. My mum had her own business for 30 years and, you know, she could always make netball carnivals and school presentations. So I wanted that. I'm willing to put in after hours and, you know, late nights and everything, but to be able to have that flexibility is what I was looking for, as well as my own creativity and drive and to show up for my kids and make them proud.
Yeah, so cool. Was your mum's business like fashion or retail related?
No, so I come from a big family. I'm one of 6 kids.
Wow.
Girls, 3 boys, so we're the Brady Bunch. So I have a big brother and then I'm the eldest daughter. So I always had that sort of role of, you know, getting everyone dressed. But no, the 3 females in my family are teachers. So my mum preschool, like a childcare centre.
Yeah.
But my mum is very good with fashion. It's just she loved teaching. She loved children. She was sporty. So she used to go, "Lauren, try this. Lauren, do you want me to buy you this?" Because I had the most similar style to her. So she was very encouraging.
Yeah.
I think the thing to take away, well, if you have children, probably more so a daughter, is just how we speak to them from a very young age. I was so lucky that my mum was always, "You look beautiful. Wear what you want." And I'll be, "Oh, is this too short?" "No, not too short. Is this too low?" No, don't be silly. "You look lovely. Do you want to try this? Can I buy you this?" Whereas I've got best friends and many clients that seem to have this underlying issue from when they were children. Like my mum said not to wear that. Or I've never shopped in that shop because, you know, mum said I was too old for it. Or it's crazy how many years later that just the wording when it comes to fashion and body and image, the way we speak to others can really affect them years later.
Yeah, and I guess that sort of underpins what we teach here at ASI, which is that unconditional like bias rules and the impact of that as we grow. And I love that that's something that you recognized in yourself as having that positive influence, but it's even more important that we can recognize in our clients that they haven't had that same experience. And that even I'm sure with like the models and brands that you work with, you know, there's certain things that will sort of always underpin how that person reacts, even if they are the face of something and considered beautiful enough to be, you know, photographed. And
And that's something that ASI taught straight off the bat, was to listen and to really listen. And I will never, ever put my opinion, my bias, my style, the way I dress, I will never put that onto my client. I will listen and I'll make sure I actually hear them. And sometimes they've never been heard before. That when it comes to clothing and whatnot, they just want, but I have so many clients that are like, oh, I hate my arms right off the bat. Like, it's a very common one. I won't show my arms. An hour into the style consultation, they're trying on things, you know, showing off their arms. I'm like, you okay with that? Like, you good now? Yeah, they don't look that bad, do they? And I'm like, no. But all they need is somebody else to come in and say, it's okay.
Yeah. Especially when that belief, like you say, like, has been reaffirmed for so long. And especially they say that you're like the product of the top 5 people that you spend time with. And if your family's that and you all share the same values, how on earth can you break out of those habits? And sometimes, yeah.
I'm a massive believer in that. It's really, really hard to unlearn conditioned values that you've learned your whole life. And for me, mine was self-care is selfish. And I've had a big, like, I've always looked down at, oh, don't use a babysitter, and oh, I wouldn't get a massage, and purely because my mum was just go, 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 and never stopped and never did anything for herself. But at the end of the day, what does it get you? What does it get you?
Do you think that maybe that mentality, like that self-care is selfish, sort of, when you were originally thinking like you couldn't do a styling course, do you think they sort of were related in that belief?
Look, growing up, I was a super anxious child, like, and I still am very anxious. I still have anxiety attacks. And at the end of the day, like, fashion for me, it helped it. And that probably sounds silly, but I've told stories where I would hide in a car at numerous high school parties, and I was popular. I would act confident. People wouldn't know, only my very best friends. So I'd be hiding in the car at a party, and people, come on, let's go in now, Lauren, come on, let's go. And I'd be that anxious and scared. I couldn't get out the car, and it would take me hours. Every party, I'd finally get in right at the end, and then it was over. But for me, I found that dressing creatively, and I had no rules with fashion. I don't believe in rules when it comes to fashion. I always just wore what I want, what I felt good in, and it gave me confidence. And I speak of it as an armor, and superheroes, you know, putting on their costume. For me to walk in somewhere and people it was a deflection for me. Oh, I love your shoes. Or where'd you get those from? Oh, like, I love your hat. Like, can I have a look? Can I try it on? Instead of the small talk, like, tell me a bit about yourself, is like my most dreaded. It makes me so nervous. So I started, I don't know, I found it was like this, it was an armor and a confidence costume as such, and B, like a deflection on small talk.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And I guess, like, and you know what's interesting is, like, often it's the people that we think are extroverts that are actually more introverted.
Yeah. And one thing I will say is, you know, I don't believe anything in life is easy. And some people say, oh, you can do this because you're smart, or you can do this, you're good at clothing or something. And nothing comes easy for me, you know, it's just trying over and over and over again. And something a lady once said to me was, take action, because with action builds evidence, and with evidence comes confidence. So I have been trying so hard to push myself to get uncomfortable, and then things get easier. Like, I've been on podcasts, I don't want to. I don't enjoy, you know, I'm nervous, but at the end of it, I feel accomplished, and I know that it's going to get easier each time. So just get uncomfortable, and don't assume that other people aren't uncomfortable or it comes easy. We're all trying our best, and you know, it's hard, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And every time you do something, you know, remotely uncomfortable, I feel that's when the mindset shifts. And when your mindset shifts, all the work comes flowing in.
Yeah. And speaking of work coming in, you've got some incredible opportunities that you are a part of now.
And I just got a new role with Robina Town Centre and
right.
yeah, Robina Town Centre and Logan Hyperdome. So I'm now the resident stylist at the two centres.
That's incredible.
Yeah, which is something, Robina's like my local go-to big, amazing shopping centre on the Gold Coast. I would say there's probably only 3 really big ones. And I worked at Harbour Town, there's Pacific Fair, and then Robina. So yeah, I'm so happy with that. I had to, send in a tender, like a proposal, write about myself, and I did it all myself, and then I got the job. So I was stoked. So I'm doing all of the in-centre VM work
Cool.
for the centres, and so all their displays and all of their campaigns. I've got to go in and shoot sort of social reels, and whenever they shoot their campaigns, you know, like spring, summer's coming up, I get to work.
Will be here before you know it.
Yeah, I've already booked in work like next week for it. And we trend tours where I take groups around shopping, and so that's keeping me busy. And then also, like, I can still have my own freelance clients where I do personal styling or editorial styling.
Yeah.
So like I said, it goes like this. And I've had a very colourful styling career over the past 7 years. Obviously, there are times when it goes quiet, you know, if I've got newborn babies and whatnot, and I'm looking at everyone else going, oh, am I ever going to get there? But I just keep on keeping on, and yeah, eventually it all pays off. And there may be quiet times, there may be really busy times, but as long as we're keeping the wheels just slightly in motion, we're keeping moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. Who has been your biggest supporter?
Well, my husband, his name's Scott. He is a huge support because he's a Taurus and he is super ambitious, confident, strong. Like, he doesn't care if someone says no, he will just find another way or ask someone else, whereas I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry I asked, bye. So he has taught me, we very much balanced each other out. I'm a Libran and I'm very like creative and soft, and so he's a real like, you can do it, Lauren, come on. Why, as I said, like his 2 words, why not, pretty much were why I signed up to ASI. So he does work away in the mines, so he's home just under 50% of the year, which is hard with juggling the kids and my
career. Yeah.
So it's hard. It is hard for him to understand sometimes that, you know, trying to, if I have to be at the shops before trade to bump in a display, but I've got to get the kids to school and kindy and he's out at work, and I don't have any, you know, like parents and in-laws here that mind our kids and babysit and whatnot. So it's tough, but he's happy for me to do my thing and keep going. He says, if it's hard, like, let's organize a nanny, or he's always open to finding solutions and ways to problem, which is good because, as I said, you know, I've been such an anxious kind of kid and growing up, and I'm getting better now, but he is a huge reason why I've become much more confident and outgoing. And I think when you become a mum, you become empowered as well. So the kids have given me, obviously, just a huge amount of confidence and just the reason to push forward, I guess, and be a role model. My little boy had to come to work with me. There was this gap where he'd finished preschool, but he was starting primary school. So he had no care, and I was like, oops, I've actually got all this work booked. So he came with me, and I put him in a trolley, and we had to go around and do VM displays, and he thought it was so cool. And they got to do a little speech at school about a family member and, you know, what they do and stuff. So he was like, my mum's a stylist, and he drew a trolley and coat hangers, and I packed down the displays with her.
Yeah. That's amazing. Like, and it's something, you know, that quality time with you, even if it was in like a working environment, will probably be a memory that he'll never forget.
Yeah. And that's something I struggle with. Because my mum was so present with us, it's a hard balance trying to be super ambitious and successful, but I refuse to like miss school pickups and I want to be the one doing his homework. So my husband is sort of, you need to step back a little. It's okay. Like, you're with them every night, morning. My daughter's only in care 3 days a week. It's like, people who work, like, you're doing a lot. Like, I'm making their lunches, and he said, you can step back a little if you need to focus on work, you know.
Yeah.
So finding that balance, as people do.
Yeah. And I think it's continually a juggling act, because as they grow, their lifestyle needs will change, and the scheduling changes and things like that. So yeah, it sounds like it's yeah, it's so great to see that the career that you've sort of forged for yourself allows you some of that flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. I'm curious as to if there's been a time throughout this like 7 years of being in predominantly more of a styling role, was there any time that you sort of thought, this is all too much, I want to throw the towel in? And how did you get past that to where you are now?
Yeah. Look, I don't think I've ever, since I began, said I don't want to do this anymore, because I know I want to. I definitely want to. And I've never said that's it.
Yeah.
But what I do, the hardest time was when I gave birth to my daughter. Because the same day I gave birth to my daughter, my mum was diagnosed with cancer. Wow. And so my maternity leave was my mum, like a newborn. My son was only 22 months old as well, because they're pretty close in age. So it was juggling toddler, newborn, and then I was the one that would take mum to chemotherapy. So baby and I would go and would do the chemotherapy, and then you've got to go to change, you know, their port and then blood tests and whatnot. So I very much threw myself into mum, and I did, we put her on like a strict vegan diet, pretty much like cancer fueling foods. And so I would buy all that and cook all that. So there was a lot of time, but I almost think it was lucky that I was maternity leave time. I had in my mind like 6 months with my daughter, but it was with mum through that whole time as well. So that time in my life was the hardest and the darkest. And my husband, as I said, worked away. Like, I remember him at the door. My daughter was 2 weeks old, and he's like, that was one of the only times I was just bawling, like, don't leave me, because I had the next starting treatment. I was like, oh God, and my toddler was at my ankle. I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? But I wasn't so much thinking about my styling business at that time. After that, because I spent my maternity leave focused on family, I didn't get that time to sort of keep the wheels in motion and be really creative. So I was probably a bit slower getting back into things. As I said, I never went back into PR or marketing after my daughter. So I was trying to find ways to make money and do my styling work. It was a little bit slow, but I think I blame that on me, you know, not being on my game and really creative at the time, because I had a lot of personal stuff going on.
Yeah.
Started for finance reasons, like I started looking for jobs to work, because Scott would say, oh, you just need something consistent, just a few days. And so I would spend so much time looking online for jobs within fashion. Like if there are headquarters up here, I was applying for just packing, I shouldn't say just, I don't mean just, but in warehouses packing for brands.
Yeah.
And I was even getting a call up. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with me? Like, I wasn't getting any jobs, but now I look at it, I'm like, oh God, it was like, you idiot. Because one day it came to me, I don't know if my husband mentioned anything or if it was just my own epiphany, but I was like, why am I spending all this time and effort applying to things that I don't love,
Mm.
I'm really not suited for. And I have my own business, my own brand, my own talent. How about the energy goes into that? And as I spoke to you before about mindset, no shit, like the minute I went, that's it, I'm back, I'm doing this, opportunities and doors are just opening because my mind, I was like, I'm ready. And that was it. And I think it was because I needed time to, you know, come good from babies and sickness, and it was all a bit much. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I really wouldn't. But yeah, the mindset changed, and that was it. COVID didn't happen that long after. So I actually found, I mean, I feel a bit guilty saying like, but it actually worked out in the beginning, that first shutdown, that silence and that time was when I became creative and hungry. So I used it very wisely, and I just, everything I did myself, like I've not had business loans or money. You don't need that for anyone that is worried about not having the finance. Like I did, it's probably $100 or something for your website. I did it on Squarespace. So I've done all of that myself. I've created a blog on it, so my SEO and everything. So I'm still up there in like top 3 searches, and I've done it all myself. But I had that quiet time. So I just thought, what articles can I put out there? What value can I add to people looking online? So just thinking and creating, and I came back.
Yeah, sounds like it. That's so cool. And I love that you took that time to, sort of sit in that and think, how can I add value in different ways if it's not actually face to face with people?
Yeah.
When it comes to getting creative, because I mean, the last 18 months, and it's crazy to think that we're not far away from this being like a 2-year thing of dealing with COVID, but where do you seek inspiration? And was there somewhere in particular during that time that really was a source of that for you?
Are you referring to just inspiration as in motivation, or do you mean like fashion inspo? Or
I guess it could be either, because, you know, I think particularly as creatives, we take inspiration from so many different facets of life. It's not just fashion. It can be, you know, lifestyle, homewares, nature, even just, you know, sometimes you just hear a podcast or someone says something.
I was sorry.
No, you're fine.
I feel like I've got different ones for different aspects, but fashion wise, I mean, this probably sounds bizarre, but I love footwear. And I feel like every time one of the big, really good brands releases what they're going to be bringing out, I just look at the colors and the styles. I'm like, okay, that's what's happening, you know, next season. And I don't know if this is old school, but I love Pinterest. And I love like searching specific styles on there and street style. I love Hailey Bieber. So if I was to go to a concert in Melbourne, I know I can't. I actually was supposed to be going to see my friend play in Melbourne, which got cancelled ages ago. And I get quite specific. Like I was hunting on Hailey Bieber's and everything and pulling parts to create the right outfit for me. So I love Pinterest. I think I was watching the old Project Runway.
Yes.
So it's, and if anyone doesn't know that show, it's the fashion design competition with Heidi Klum as the host or judge on it.
Yeah.
Even just seeing, how they're creating garments. So, and then obviously the old scroll. I'm saving lots of things, but to be honest, the ASI community and watching other students succeed, it inspires me, definitely. Because, you know, we're all just the same, and watching other people smash their goals and being successful, it fires me up. I'm happy for them, and it fuels me to do better as well.
So cool. I definitely think that if people aren't following other stylists in the community, it's definitely worth it. And, you know, finding those people who are even getting the results that you want so that you can take inspiration from how they've got there. And that's part of the reason that we've created this series, is that there's people out there who want to achieve the fantastic results that people like yourself are achieving. And it's like, well, you mentioned before, you know, nothing's just fallen in your lap. Like, it's been hard work, it's been dedication, long hours, juggling acts. And, you know, even outside of the actual like work that you do, there's all those things that, you know, become not necessarily roadblocks, but they're life things that happen. You know, no one would have anticipated, you know, your mum falling sick with cancer and having to juggle that and a newborn and a toddler. Like, that's a lot. But, you know, I think you're a great example of someone who is resilient, and, you know, that hunger, like you said, it's there and you've got to tap into that. And I think so many of us forget that there's that little fire in front of us, and sometimes it's like a dwindling little flame and other times it's like an explosion. So
yeah, stay hungry.
Yeah, definitely. Talking of that, I guess this leads me into sort of my final question for our chat, but what does success look like to you in the future when it comes to the style files, and how do you actually measure success for yourself?
I don't know. I mean, success, if I just look broadly for me, is probably freedom, independence, being able to do something authentically for me and me feeling valued, but also adding value to somebody else. So, and then again, back to the children, like being a role model and then being proud of what their mum does and thinking I'm cool.
Sounds like you're a pretty cool mum, like taking your kids to like in the trolley. Like, what kid doesn't want to ride in a trolley ever? And yet they get to do that with you.
Donut shop, are you kidding?
Oh gosh, too good. That's awesome. Is there any other exciting projects in the pipeline for you right now, or focusing on your in-store like center styling roles?
Yeah, so I'm still really quite busy with just personal styling inquiries, which is great.
Yeah.
I love that, because the more I do, the more confident. It's really good knowing that I'm helping, and especially like I'm quite passionate about sustainability. So I'd like to people with the tools to shop smart and to try, you know, avoid products just sitting in there collecting dust. But in regards to what I'm doing with the big shopping centres up here, I'm excited because, yeah, it's pretty new, I guess. And each week, you know, they're calling me and sending through more emails, and they ask me what more services I can do. And for example, like we only had a 8-day lockdown up here the other day. It's all back on. The marketing girls were emailing me and they're saying, obviously they're there to support their retailers who have probably, you know, had a rough trot, closed them for 8 days. So they're saying what services, you know, list them, update them, give me quotes and everything. We can then go to the retailers and say, look, we've got a stylist here. Do you want to book her for this, this and this? But yeah, we've got a big spring summer launch weekend coming up here, and they'll be doing like a live OB broadcast with the radio station, which they're actually giving away $2,000 to a deserving winner, and then I take them shopping.
That is so cool.
Full shop experience, and I think there's like a little bar, and so it'll be fun. That'd be really cool, and I know that it's a deserving winner, so I'm pretty excited about that.
So exciting. I can't wait to watch that unfold on your socials.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say I am doing a big rebrand actually too. That's probably exciting.
Yeah. Okay. What sort of spurred that on?
Well, because I got married 2 years ago now, and so my maiden name's Lauren Murphy, but I married a Dugan, so I'm Lauren Dugan.
Yeah.
And I thought I was more like, do I drop the style files? The reason being, when you're credited, like I've been on the news and in newspapers and whatnot, it's like, are you really halving your brand value, my name, because they're saying the style files sometimes, or Lauren of the style files. Whereas if it's just Lauren Dugan, like Lauren Dugan, that's it. Lauren Dugan style file. Oh my God, I'm confusing myself now. Sorry. I am rebranding to Lauren Dugan Stylist, and it'll be like LD for sure.
Cool.
So I have a really close friend actually who I used to work for, who owns a PR firm. So she's doing that for me. And I've worked with them before as well on some of their like corporate clients. So they call on me to go and dress their clients when they've got photo shoots and whatnot. So again, it's like being a relationship builder, and like they're not charging me for this. That's what I mean. They're like, would like to give this to you because you've helped us. And
yeah, very cool. I think that, you know, what you shared with us today is so important. There's a few key messages that I think will really resonate. One being that resilience to sort of, you know, take on what life throws at you and just roll with it and keep pushing. And if there's that flame there that's even slightly burning, like you've just got to follow that hunger and make it happen. And the other one is don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. And just, you know, and see how that transforms the opportunities that come your way. So very exciting for you with everything ahead. I want to say a huge thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. You're an incredible woman, and I'm really grateful that we got to hear more about your story. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Good luck, everyone. Keep going.
Yeah, we will. We absolutely will. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.